I had a student ask me once when we were talking about the Christmas bird count, where they said, like, how do you know you're not counting the same bird? And I said, well, one way to think about it is if you were looking for me in Thibodeau and you went to McDonald's, you probably wouldn't find me because I don't eat fast food. So if you wanted to find me, you might go to an Alumni Grill or someplace like that. So birds are kind of the same way. Yeah, any bird could occur anywhere, but they're usually very habitat specific. So if you see a bird in a habitat and you drive a mile away, it's not likely that bird's gonna fly to that same habitat. My parents had a sizable garage, and they had a window that opened up into the backyard. And my mom would throw rice and bread, and so there'd be all these birds in the yard. And I mean, I was always interested in nature from when I was like in the second grade. When I think about it, I've always been a teacher, you know. I love learning things and sharing it with other people. So my mom was probably my first student because she was really interested in a lot of things in nature and all, and she supported my interest in nature. Most people didn't. People thought I was weird. So I think wanting to share what I learned with other people, I don't know, it makes it more meaningful to me. And I went through phases. Like first it was fish, and then insects, and then when I was in junior high school and high school it was herps, so snakes and turtles and stuff. We had this little bird club, and back then you would get these it was nice little natural history prints. I don't know if it was on the cereal box or on the oatmeal box, these nice little prints, and it had a picture of the bird, and then on the back it was like information about the bird. And so we had these little cards, and we would look and see what birds were coming in the yard, and then we got interested in trying to catch them. And so we made all these crazy traps, and none of them worked, but eventually we did the old box and stick, you know, with the string, and we caught a blue jay, and that was exciting. We were like, yes, blue jay. And of course, when we tried to get it out, the thing bit us and then flew off. So, and then when I was in college, I got interested in plants. So in my undergrad, I took every botany class that Nichols had. So I got to know native plants pretty well. And then I was an auto mechanic for 15 years when I worked for my dad. That's how I paid my way through college. I mean, nobody in my family went to college, so I didn't really know. You don't know what you don't know. And so I had an opportunity to go to Costa Rica, and bought a decent pair of binoculars and went to Costa Rica, and that like lit me on fire for birds, because like there were all these cool birds. I got to see a trogon, an elegant trogon, bat falcon, all these cool water birds. So that's what really lit the fire again for birds. And then not long after that, I had an opportunity to do some bird surveys for the National Park Service at Jean Lafitte in Barataria. I did that for 2 years, and that really got me excited about doing surveys, and you know, I felt like I was contributing to science. So I would spend hours with CDs just listening to bird calls of all the, you know, common birds. And that was a great experience. I really learned a lot doing that project, you know, and I mean, it just kind of took off from there, you know. And that forced me to learn the calls, because I had to identify birds by sight and by call. I did a little canoe trip with this guy and his son, and he was amazed at how I could identify the calls. And I asked him, I said, well, what do you do in your spare time? He's like, oh, I'm into sports. I'm always watching football, baseball, you know, and he knows all the stats and everything. I said, well, while you're doing that, I'm listening to bird calls. So if you did the same thing, you could have the skill too. It's a skill you learn. I think having musical training too, I mean, I played in the band in school, and I think having that learning songs by ear. Like when I was in college, I played guitar in a band, and we'd learn songs by ear. They didn't have the internet like they do now. And you just sit there with a record and listen to it and just keep playing it over and over. So having that training, I think, helped with bird song. I find I paid a lot of attention to rhythm in bird calls, whereas a lot of people, they listen to the frequency changes, but not necessarily the rhythm. And I find that helps me distinguish between one species and another, because they have different rhythms and speeds. I worked on a prothonotary warbler project where we had nest boxes out in the woods, in the swamps at Jean Lafitte. So we went out there and we once a week and we checked the boxes and bandits and chicks, weighed them. And so you can compare different areas, because we had several properties, and it was part of a larger national project. There were some people doing the similar work in Arkansas, and because their population is declining, they were setting these boxes up to give them more nesting habitat. There were several states where they were doing similar work. So that was exciting to be part of that. Another exciting thing was, it wasn't really, they weren't certain where they wintered at. And so they put the first geolocators, which is a little device the bird wears like a backpack. So they found out that almost the whole population winters in Colombia, in this one valley. And so that was a new finding. So I was excited to be part of that. And then I started teaching, so I did that for 30 and a half years. And then, once I actually started doing it, I enjoyed working with young people and just that energy young people have, and I felt like it kept me young. I mean, teaching can be kind of mechanical, and it's an unusual situation, because you're tasked with this objective, but that might not be the best objective for students, so it was sort of a struggle for me to try to find that balance between doing what was right by them, and that part of the job I didn't care for. And some students, like, school is all they have. They don't have anybody in their life that really cares about them. And I know for at least a few of my students, I was a person that they felt saw them. And I've actually had students tell me they felt seen, so that made me feel good, because I felt like I was there for them, which is the real reason I was teaching. That kept me in it. It certainly wasn't the pay and all the other stuff, but I got a lot of joy out of it, and fulfillment. Knowing you made a difference in somebody's life was really such a cool feeling. It's worth more than any paycheck. When a student says, man, you made me interested in science and I never was interested in it before. And then when I got involved in banding, this station started in 2013, and the station in Baton Rouge had started in 2010. So 2 grad students started it, and they called it the Louisiana Bird Observatory. And so this station is sort of a partner with them. So that's how I got involved in bird banding. I started volunteering here and at the station in Baton Rouge, and then eventually, I got my permit. I got permitted, and I was allowed to band on my own. And that's been a interesting project, because you get to see birds up close. And of course, when I was young, I loved trying to catch birds, so it's a safer way to catch birds. An opportunity came to do shorebird surveys with Audubon, Louisiana Audubon. Now they're Audubon Delta. I like their variety. I mean, all birds have some variety, but shorebirds, they just have all these adaptations in bill length, because they feed at different depths. Some of them feed on the surface. And I'm just intrigued by their migration. Like, they're the longest, or some of the longest migrating birds. And I'm just blown away by how their physiology has been honed through evolution. Like the bar-tailed godwit breeds in Alaska, and they fly all the way to New Zealand. Like they don't glide, they don't land in the water. How is that even physiologically possible? Imagine moving your arms for 7 days without stopping. I'm just blown away by that. They have very subtle patterns. You know, a lot of people are attracted to the real colorful birds, but I think shorebirds are kind of understated, but if you really look at them, like, they have very intricate patterns. And I think they're challenging. A lot of birders I know don't really care for shorebirds because they see them as difficult. That's what I like about birding is, I mean, you can ask Warren, you never know what you're gonna see, you know. You know, some people come out here, they're not really interested in learning how to band, but they're interested in birds. Mm-hmm. And so, like this lady, I don't know if you remember that lady Margaret that was here last time. She emailed me and thanked me, and she said it was one of the best experiences of her life to get to see all these birds. And so that was cool. Like, I love that, you know, that I could share that with somebody else, you know. Yeah, I just see it as an extension of you know, being the teacher I was, and it's just a different setting, but I'm kind of doing the same thing in a lot of ways. I have a recording of a cardinal. I can share it with you. So cardinals do, you know, they do their wee-tee kind of call. Mm-hmm. I don't know, people use different mnemonics for it, but after they do that call, sometimes they'll do this real soft trill. It's like a little